What's up, you guys? This is Devin from CenturyFX Studios, and we're back with another video. Today we're going to be talking about a shoot that I did recently with a sexy car and a sexy model. This is just the editing process, so you'll see me go through several images that I chose as finals to actually edit. Some of the things that you will see me edit, the basic slider movements on Lightroom. Most of those slider movements are basically done with all the images because of the location that we were in. Now, granted, I was shooting in manual. The sun was going down rapidly because this is, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. This is right around the golden hour of photography where the sun gives you the most decadent light, but at the same time, it goes down very rapidly. So whatever images that you're trying to get, you have to capture them in a rapid manner. So one of the things that you need to understand is that even though I was shooting the manual, with that golden hour photography going on, you can only meter things correctly for so long. And once you move from a certain spot, your metering changes. Once you move from a certain spot, the metering of her face changes and things of that nature. So a lot of the editing that I did with these raw files were basically the same from image to image, depending on how much shadow she was in, or depending on how much bright light she was in. A lot of the time I really wanted to get that background. That background was a big pivotal thing for me when I was doing this shoot. That had a lot of tall buildings that I want to capture her behind or in front of. I wanted the buildings to be behind her so I can give you that city-like ambiance, that city, sexy, daytime vibe, but at the same time it's almost night. It has a really dense sky, but at the same time it's cloudy, and I want all that stuff to be really like eye-popping. So I think I achieved that in this photo shoot. One of the things that I did have equipment-wise was an external speed light. But one of the things that kind of put me off is that speed light didn't have high-speed sync. For those of you who don't know what high-speed sync is, it's basically the ability to go above your flash sync speed on your camera with an external speed light. And basically what this does is, as long as you know that shutter speed affects the ambient and the aperture affects the amount of light that you're outputting, if you're able to go above that shutter sync speed from the flash, which is usually like a 2/50th of a second or below, 1/60th of a second on some cameras, if you're able to go above that, then you're able to bring down the ambient exposure to match the actual light that you're outputting and the light that you're getting from the ambient. So basically, you match your exposure on the background and match the exposure of the foreground with the subject. But I couldn't do that well because my flash did not have high-speed sync. So with that being said, a lot of these images were treated the same way as far as Lightroom. Going in there, changing the exposure, I changed the the whites, I've changed the shadows, I changed the highlights, but they were all the same. Changed a little bit of sharpness. I may have added a little bit of color to the background because with that sun going down, but that sun being so bright on such a reflective surface as those big buildings in the background, that I needed to bring some color back to that, that building and things of that nature, and see those things the way I saw it in the camera when I originally took it. Now, granted, when you're taking raw files, these raw files will be dry. They'll not have as much color as as a JPEG would coming straight out of the camera. So those are some of the things that I did. I also brought up the exposure on the model, basically bringing out the shadows. Did a little bit of brushing here and there on some inconsistent tonalities in the skin, and then I came back, and some of the things that caught a lot of noise, because even though I'm shooting in a well lit environment, the model is not well lit, because the thing about it is when the sun is to her back, that sun creates a lot of shadows, almost making her a silhouette in some cases. That's why I had the external light source, but after shooting with the external light source for over 2 hours, that battery starts to die down, that power starts to become less evident. So you need to bump up your ISO to get through the shoot, because I didn't have time to go back and change batteries and put it back up and put the umbrella back through and all of the other stuff. I'd rather just amp up the ISO just a little bit, from 100 to 400 or from 400 to 800, depending on where I was in the scene. And it didn't happen like that with all the images, but you also want to take that into account, that you will get noise on the foreground if you can illuminate it well, and then you're going to have to bump up your ISO just to compensate for what the flash can do. So yeah, that was pretty much it as far as this shoot is concerned. Just taking note of a lot of things. The treatments were the same. All the images that I chose, I forget how many images I chose from the shoot, but just make sure once you do all of that stuff, you keep in mind that you can also go back to Photoshop, which I did with these images, and do some more, you know, global adjustments and local adjustments, some more defined local adjustments. Now the global adjustments in Photoshop CC, they were okay, but the local ones were the ones that made the shoot. Like there was some big lanterns from, you know, the street lights on the parking deck. They were in the way. They were, you know, in the background, in the way, blocking the car sometimes. And you know, and there were some signs that I did not want in the shot, so I just content aware filled that out, or I lassoed it and took it out. Just some basic things, maybe some parking lines, some yellow parking lines were in some of the shots that I didn't like. So those are some of the things that I did to make this shoot work out, guys. But all in all, keep shooting. And this is Devin from CenturyFX Studios, wishing you guys great pictures and great images. Comment on this video, like, subscribe, all that stuff.